Okay, so if I'm going to export this, if you look right here, here's my artboard. Okay, when we were in Photoshop and you were working on a PSD file and you want to export it as a JPEG, you do a save as, correct? Well, now it lives. If you do a save as here in Illustrator, it's basically going to give you an Illustrator option or a EPS or a PDF, and that's about it. And the SVG, but that's a whole different thing. Let's cancel that. If we want to export a different file type, then we have to go export. Now export for screens, we're going to go export as, okay? And it's going to give me this window, and it's going to give me all these options. So let's say JPEG. And right here, where it says use artboards, what that means is, let's go through this. So I have all this stuff out here on the board, right, that I don't want. So I'm going to say export. Now it's going to give me this window, okay, which is going to give me the option of CMYK or RGB. I'm going to save it as RGB. What is RGB? But it's screens, right? CMYK is print. What I usually do with clients, if I'm sending them a high-res file or something like that for print, I send them that CMYK, and then I send them an RGB file that I clearly mark that it's low res and not for print. It's really a preview file. Because if this thing's 600 meg TIFF file, it's just easier for them to have a preview file, okay? But you got to have them clearly marked. Okay, this one's at set. Now right here, it's got my DPI. I'm just going to leave it at 72. And right here, I want it all the way up, my quality, and hit OK. Now, what it's going to do here, well, I didn't tell it to save it to the desktop. That was smart. Hang on. Find this thing now. Actually, let me just re-export. It'll be easier. So export, export as, desktop, JPEG, use artboards, export. And it's right here. So if you notice, it clipped it to the artboard. It didn't pick up any of that extraneous stuff all around it. If I don't hit the artboards, it is going to pick all that stuff up. So you're going to get a file this big with all that stuff all out here. Okay, so make sure you hit use artboards. Okay, let's go back here. Now the other thing I want to say, because this file I have a photo in here. Okay, now if I go to links, there's my linked files. Okay, so here's this one here. Okay, now if you notice there's no symbol right here, that means it's linked. Okay, that means when Illustrator opens, it's going to go, I have to go find this file and put it in here. Okay, if I come here and I go Embed Image, now it gets this little symbol right here. What that means is now when I open it somewhere else, I don't have to have that placed file. The reason you don't want to do that when you're working is because it kind of limits what you can do to that file. So let's say I don't have that file with me. I can't now go and edit it. I'd have to export it out, edit it, and then I might lose, a lot of things that way. So if I'm going to send this to somebody and I don't want to have to hassle send them the file and everything, I'd embed it. Okay. The other thing is if I go and I tweak that photo in Photoshop, if I go, I want a little more saturated or I want to whatever. Once I do that, when I go back to Illustrator, Illustrator's going to go, you updated that file, you want me to update it? And it'll just automatically update it here. If it's embedded, it won't do that. Okay, it's disconnected from the original file at that point. Does that make sense? So when you're working, don't embed it, unless it's just, if it's a little reference file that you pulled off the internet or something, you're just using it for like 20 minutes and you don't care about it, then embed it. And it's fine if you're not going to need to tweak it or anything. So I'm going to go Okay, so now we're back to not being embedded. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Now, if I go up here, so that's just exporting, okay? But if I go up here and I go to package, which we talked a little bit about, I'm going to hit package. I'm going to pick a place for it, which is going to also be on the desktop. And choose. And what this is going to do, copy links, all that. Okay, and I'm going to hit package, okay? And it always gives you this, which I don't like. It's just telling you there's restrictions on the fonts and things like that. And it just, okay, so package created successfully. I can either go to show package or okay. I'm just going to go to okay. And now when I go here, it created a folder, okay? And if you see how neatly it puts all this together? So what it did is it put all the fonts used in this right here, okay? So I don't have to worry about that. Here's my file, my Illustrator file. And then here's a report that I could put things in there for the printer, whoever I'm sending it to, and they could pop it open. I could say, hey, I want this to be printed like this, whatever notes I want to tell them, okay? And then here are my links, and these are my images that need to live with this file. So it does exactly what it says. It packages all this stuff together nice and neatly, so when I send it to someone, everything's there and I'm confident it's all there. This used to be really a pain. I've told you guys that before they did this, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, because we're exporting everything out, all these projects we're doing, we're exporting them out as a JPEG, right? So I want to make sure that you know how to do that. Sometimes you're going to need to repeat something, and you don't want to go in and have to repeat it all the time, okay? It could be a crowd, could be, in this case, we're going to do leaves, anything like that, that has to be repeated a lot and sort of randomly, okay? So I'm grabbing these just because they exist, and let's pick this one, or let's pick this one. And now I've got my tree sitting here, okay? I'm going to put this on a different layer. And here's my leaf. Let's go a little smaller. Now, this is the symbol tool right here. If you press it and you click this little edge right here, it'll pull this off. I'm going to get rid of this. This little, right here, that looks like a spray can, okay, right there. So what I'm going to do here is under Windows, where all the palettes live, I'm going to go to Symbols, and this is where they live, okay? And I'm going to take this one. Now, this can be just something you make. It can be anything, okay? And I want to drop it in here. New symbol, so let's put leaf. I want to make sure it doesn't say movie clip, it says graphic, and all this other stuff is fine. So now what's going to happen here is I'm going to go to my, what looks like a spray can here. I've picked my leaf, and it's going to just pop them all in there, okay? Now, I'm not going to want them to be that uniform. So one of the things that, so there's different settings here. This one just kind of moves them around. This is the second setting here. This one gathers them. This one sizes them, and if you hit minus, it'll go back the other way. Or option, I think it is. Oops. So we can go that way. We can also go, let me get rid of this. This will move them around where I can start getting them into a position that looks more natural. This one, let's switch this color here. This one's called the Stainer tool, and it will come in and just recolor. And then this one is a screener tool, which will kind of push some of them back. Does that make sense? They're pretty simple. You should play with it. it comes in, I mean, obviously for this, it's really handy. If I was gonna do like somebody did it last term, they were doing Dodger Stadium with that, those people back there. We just made a couple of simple little heads and that kind of thing, real simple, and just sprayed them in there. Because when it gets way back there, you're not gonna see any detail or anything. Make sense? It's gonna come in handy for this, what we're doing, because if you have, it could be flames. If you have a lot of flames back there and you wanna kind of, knock them around. And then if we want to, we could expand the shape and then we could reshape them after we get them in there. But I'll go into that later. Make sense? Okay, let's work.